Hey man, ever feel like women are magnetically drawn to the exact guys who treat them the worst? It's not just you, and it's not random. There's a brutal reason behind women's attraction to cruel men, and it's not what most people are ready to admit. This isn't about blaming or complaining. It's about seeing clearly what's been hidden in plain sight. Once you understand this, you stop being confused and start playing by the real rules of the game. And if you're still chasing validation the nice guy way, you're going to hate what's coming next. So yeah, what you'll hear in the next few minutes, most men never hear in a lifetime. And that changes everything. If this message speaks to something you felt but couldn't explain, help spread it. Drop a like, leave your take in the comments, or share this with a brother who needs it. It helps way more than you think. If you've ever been overlooked while the guy with zero empathy got all the attention, this is going to make sense real fast and hit even harder. The brutal reason behind women's attraction to cruel men. There's something no one tells you as a man. Being kind doesn't guarantee desire. You can be emotionally available, respectful, supportive, and still get passed over for the guy who barely texts her back. You start to question everything. But here's the harsh part. What you're doing feels right, but it doesn't trigger her instincts. Why? Because her attraction isn't logical. It's wired into her biology, shaped over thousands of years by survival, danger, and dominance. And yeah, that hurts to admit. The more emotionally stable and gentle you are, the more invisible you might become in her world. That's not pessimism. It's the brutal truth most men avoid confronting. Deep down, many women are drawn to cold behavior, unpredictability, and men who operate from a place of dominance, not approval. Not because they want to suffer, but because those traits signal strength, danger, and value. That's the hidden game. And once you see it, the entire dating map changes. Fast. You might wonder, but don't women say they want a good guy? They do, but what they respond to is different. Her biology is not designed to select for politeness, it selects for survival. And that's why the man who triggers her psychological pull, the one who disrupts her emotional control and makes her feel off balance, is the one she craves. That chaos? It's not always fun, but it's emotionally intense. And emotional tension is what lights the fuse of attraction. See, there's something called the Dark Triad, a cluster of traits: narcissism, Machiavellianism, and psychopathy. Men with these traits often dominate the sexual landscape, even if they're destructive long-term. Why? Because those traits signal power, not submission. They play by unspoken rules. They don't chase, they pull, they're unapologetic. And that's magnetic to women who are hardwired to detect alpha presence in any group dynamic. They feel it, and so do you. When she starts slipping away toward a guy who treats her like an afterthought, this isn't about becoming toxic. It's about understanding that authentic masculinity isn't soft. It's structured, grounded, unapologetically bold. That's what sets the stage for sexual polarity, the natural tension between masculine and feminine energy. When you lose that polarity by being overly available or passive, the spark dies. But when you lead with boldness, when you hold your masculine frame with calm confidence, something shifts. She feels it. She responds. And suddenly, you're not just seen, you're felt. Let's break the illusion. Validation doesn't create attraction. In fact, it often kills it. When you constantly seek approval, when you need her to reassure you, you're shifting the power. And women sense that instantly. They're biologically tuned to spot hierarchy shifts, because in tribal survival, status signals meant everything. So when you act like a subordinate, even if you're emotionally open, you fall in her internal social hierarchy. And once you're there, climbing back up, that's a war you'll likely lose. You've probably seen it before. A guy who barely gives her attention, acts distant, sometimes even cold, and yet she's obsessed. That's silent attraction. It happens below the surface, beyond logic. It's about male strategy, not surface-level charm. These men understand how to trigger hypergamy, a woman's innate drive to secure the best possible genetic and resourceful partner. They don't explain themselves. They don't beg. They move with inner power, and that silence, it screams. And women hear it loud. Let's paint the picture. Two men walk into a room. One is smiling, polite, eager to please. The other, quiet, composed, almost hard to read. Guess which one women notice first. It's not always fair, but the second man triggers a sense of mystery, of challenge, of presence. That's psychological pull at work. He doesn't broadcast neediness, he broadcasts choice. Women don't just want security, they crave a man whose emotional control creates tension. And tension, when calibrated, becomes irresistible. Think back to high school, or even now. Who were the guys girls lost sleep over? The ones who texted back right away with sweet emojis? Or the ones who kept them guessing, always half a step away? That uncertainty creates emotional tension, and that tension feeds the fire. It's not about being rude, it's about holding your center, keeping your mystery. That's a male strategy built not on games, but on inner power, the ability to be still in chaos and to lead without needing applause. There's a reason why confidence without words can shake a room. It's not about muscles, money, or image. It's about alpha presence, an unspoken energy that says, I know who I am. And women sense that in seconds. Most guys over-explain, overshare, overprove. But the men who win, they understand unspoken rules. They don't seek permission. They take up space. That's the edge, being calm but immovable. And that's where authentic masculinity lives. In quiet strength, not in loud performances. Let's be honest, most nice guys don't actually understand women. They just try to please them. And that's the trap. Women don't want to lead the emotional dynamic. They want to feel led by a man in full possession of himself. That's why masculine frame matters. Not control, not aggression, but structure. It's the ability to set direction without begging for approval. When you do that, you're not just another man hoping to be chosen. You become the one who does the choosing. Now here's the twist. Even if she doesn't consciously want a man with Dark Triad traits, her nervous system often responds to it. Not because she enjoys cruelty, but because those traits mimic strength and survival. Especially in environments where women don't feel protected, they unconsciously seek dominance, not to be oppressed, but to feel safe. And unfortunately, a lot of guys who play nice don't project that kind of safety. They project need. And need is often mistaken for weakness. That's why rejection feels confusing. You think you did everything right. You were kind, consistent, available. And yet, you're met with distance, excuses, or that awful line. You're such a great guy, but that's the moment when rejection stings the most, because you thought effort would equal reward. But in her mind, it wasn't about effort. It was about energy. Polite doesn't mean boldness, and love doesn't bloom from predictability. It's sparked by sexual polarity, by contrast, by friction. That's the piece most men never get taught. So what do women actually want? They want a man whose presence makes them feel something. Not necessarily a sense of peace, but a sense of aliveness. That aliveness often comes from unpredictability, decisiveness, even disagreement. When you disagree with respect, but without flinching, you display status signals. You say, I won't bend just to keep you. And that's rare. That's leadership. That's the kind of dominance that doesn't crush, it holds steady. And the feminine, it relaxes in the presence of that steadiness. Here's the thing most men never realize. Attraction isn't always about comfort. It's often about disruption. The man who can shake her world just a little without breaking it becomes unforgettable. That's the power of calibrated cold behavior. Not cruelty, not indifference, but restraint. A refusal to collapse into her frame. When she can feel your masculine frame holding its ground, when she can't fully predict your next move, that's when her interest sharpens. Not because you're mean, but because you're not predictable. Let's flip the script. Imagine you're at a table across from a woman. You're present, not chasing, not shrinking, just grounded. You speak less, but with certainty. Your eyes don't flicker, your voice doesn't tremble. That's not arrogance, that's emotional control. It's what separates boys from men. It tells her nervous system, this man can hold the storm. And that, more than gifts or compliments, is what female nature seeks. It's not about what you say, it's about who you are when you say it. And here's where it all clicks. Women aren't wired to feel deep attraction toward men who collapse under pressure. They respond to men who embody calm strength, who walk with inner power, and move through the world with a quiet kind of dominance. And this doesn't mean being heartless. It means being whole. You become the mountain, not the storm. And when she feels that, her instincts respond before her logic does. And now, a quick moment. If this content is cracking open things you always felt but never understood, hit that like button right now and subscribe. Seriously, because the kind of clarity you're getting here, most men go their entire lives without it. And this is just the beginning. Let's keep going. Every woman has a radar for energy. She may not be able to explain it, but she feels it. When a man walks in with certainty, self-trust, and emotional weight, she senses it instantly. That's not magic. It's evolutionary coding. Her instincts are scanning for leadership, safety, decisiveness. Not words, energy. And when your masculine frame holds true under pressure, that's what gets her attention. Not the flowers, not the long texts, but the brutal truth of who you are when she pushes. Let me tell you a quick story. A guy named Marcus spent years doing everything right. He was loyal, romantic, even wrote poetry. But the woman he loved always drifted toward colder, emotionally unavailable men. Heartbroken, he went inward. Studied red pill reality, learned about hypergamy, female nature, and the Dark Triad traits that kept women emotionally hooked. Slowly, he stopped apologizing for his masculinity. He rebuilt his boundaries. Today, he doesn't chase, he chooses. And guess who came back the moment he let go? That story isn't rare. In fact, it's becoming more common as men wake up. Once you unplug from the fantasy that nice equals attraction, you start to move differently. You stop overinvesting. You stop explaining your worth. And that's where your male strategy becomes refined. Not manipulative, not performative, just deeply rooted in authentic masculinity. That means taking responsibility for your energy, your direction, your outcomes. Because the man who leads himself never begs to be led by someone else. Let's get tactical for a second. Want to build inner power? Start with breath. Yep, seriously. Deep diaphragmatic breathing trains your nervous system to stay calm under pressure. It rewires your response to stress. Combine that with daily resistance training, deliberate cold exposure, and journaling under emotional tension. You're not just building discipline, you're building emotional command. And that control? It silently radiates through your body language. She notices it, even when you say nothing. That's how you train alpha presence, without ever faking it. Most men lose themselves in validation. They post for likes, they text for responses, they speak for approval. And in doing so, they drain their edge. What if, instead, you became the source? The man who validates himself internally, through action, mission, progress. That shift makes you untouchable. Women admire it. Men respect it. And best of all, it kills neediness at the root. Status signals don't come from bragging. They come from stillness, from knowing you can walk away without flinching. You want to break the cycle? Stop rewarding rejection. When you give more energy to women who ignore you than to your own development, you reinforce the wrong pattern. Attraction isn't about forcing her to like you. It's about becoming the man she can't ignore. That happens when you're driven by survival wiring, not fantasy. Purpose, ambition, and structure are attractive not because they're flashy, but because they scream emotional control. She can feel when a man is walking a path that's bigger than her. Here's something wild. A lot of the men women chase today would have been the tribal warriors centuries ago. Not because they were nice, but because they were necessary. They embodied boldness, discipline, and danger. Those men survived. And their genes got passed down. Fast forward to today, and women's bodies still respond to that same archetype, even if their minds say otherwise. That's survival wiring at work. And once you understand it, you stop getting angry, and you start becoming what nature respects. You don't have to be cruel to be respected, but you do have to stop being afraid of being misunderstood. That's where most nice guys collapse. They soften their edge to appear safe, and in doing so, they kill the mystery. Women don't need cruelty, but they need boldness. They need to feel the spark of sexual polarity, where your masculine direction meets their feminine flow. If you blend in, she forgets you. If you stand tall with emotional control, she remembers. It's not just what you say, it's how you don't flinch when challenged. That's a test. Women will throw out little remarks, tiny disruptions, just to see if your frame breaks. Most men get defensive. But the one who laughs, who stays grounded, who sees the game, that man stands out. That's the power of masculine frame in real time. It's not a script, it's not theory, it's who you become when you stop negotiating for her love and start living from your mission. Manipulation is what weak men do when they don't believe in their own value. But when you move with integrity, dominance doesn't look like control, it looks like certainty. And certainty is what her nervous system is dying to find. So how do you show that? You say less. You act more. You don't rush. You don't explain yourself 100 times. You lead with calm decisions. That's authentic masculinity in motion. It's the opposite of performance. It's presence. Every time you fold to keep her comfortable, you chip away at her attraction. Harsh? Maybe. But that's the brutal truth. The man she respects is the one who doesn't abandon himself for connection, who can sit in tension without needing to fix it. That's why emotional tension is sacred. It reveals who has the stronger core. Women don't want a perfect man. They want a stable one. And stability doesn't mean silence. It means power that doesn't panic. Want an easy way to check your frame? Watch how often you apologize unnecessarily. Every time you say sorry when you mean no, you give away power. That's not humility, that's self-erasure. Start replacing weak language with intentional silence. Instead of reacting, pause. Let the space speak for you. That pause alone creates psychological pull. Why? Because you're not predictable. And in a world full of noise, your restraint becomes rare. Rare becomes attractive. And attractive becomes unforgettable. You don't need to dominate her. You need to dominate your environment, your mind, your time, your outcomes. That's the shift. When your energy is anchored, when your inner power isn't dependent on her reaction, she feels that deeply. That's what triggers silent attraction. You don't say, I'm high value. You simply live like a man who has purpose, options, and standards. And if she drifts, you don't chase, you replace. That's not cruelty, that's clarity. And clarity is power. By now, it should be clear. What women respond to isn't always what they claim. And that doesn't make them bad. It makes them human. Just like men crave beauty, women crave strength. Polarity is biological. And when you understand the hidden layer beneath her words, the unspoken rules, the instincts shaped by millennia, you stop blaming and you start building. You realize she's not rejecting you. She's rejecting the version of you that won't lead. And that's something you can change. Starting now, this isn't about becoming someone else. It's about becoming who you were always meant to be before the world softened your edges. You were never supposed to shrink to fit someone's comfort zone. You were supposed to build your own world and invite her into it. That's what alpha presence feels like. It's not loud, it's not controlling. It's a quiet intensity that reshapes every room you walk into. That kind of man doesn't ask for love. He becomes love's direction. And here's something no one teaches you. Attraction isn't just felt by her, it's trained by you, through repetition, through self-respect, through choosing discomfort over desperation. When you live with survival wiring, everything shifts. You wake up with intention. You speak with purpose. You move like someone who doesn't need anything but can handle everything. And that's status signals embedded in your every breath. She sees it in your walk, hears it in your silence, and feels it in your absence. So now it's on you, not to chase her, not to fix her, but to build yourself into the man who no longer questions why she's attracted to the wrong guys, but becomes the man she's wired to desire. A man with dominance? Yes, but also vision, boundaries, depth. A man who holds emotional control when things get uncertain. Because if she's the storm, you're the ocean floor. Unshaken, still, solid. That's the core of authentic masculinity. And that's where your life changes. What you've just learned isn't fluff, it's a mirror. One that reflects the brutal truth about what women actually respond to, and what you've been taught to ignore. So the next time you feel overlooked, ask yourself, am I leading or am I waiting to be chosen? Because the man who truly leads chooses himself first. And from there, he shapes everything else, the love, the respect, the legacy. So what kind of man do you want to be? So now I'll ask you directly. Are you ready to stop being overlooked and start being chosen by who you really want? Are you willing to stop fighting for attention and start becoming the kind of man who never has to? Because once you understand what we've unpacked here, there's no going back. You can't unsee the patterns. And you definitely can't keep playing a game you now know is rigged against the unaware. Here's your challenge. Drop a comment below and tell me, what's one behavior you're done justifying? To keep this movement growing, write this in the comments. No more shrinking. I choose boldness. And hey, if you made it to the end of this video, thank you. Seriously. Your attention is the most valuable thing you have, and it means a lot that you spent it here. If this content hit home, please like the video, share it with someone who needs to hear this, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss what's coming next. Because we're just getting started,